Hi, Bonzaar, welcome. Kia ora, everyone, which means have life or be healthy. Hopefully, I pronounced that right. This episode, we will focus on Kiwiburn, its background, organization, and Kiwiburn 2025. With me, I have Andy and Julia, who are actually on site right now at Hunterville. Welcome, guys. How we going?
Thank you very much.
Going well.
Now, gates already opened, and you guys are actually right in the middle of Kiwiburn. How are things going?
Spectacularly.
Yeah, it's really chill, really, really easy atmosphere this year so far. Give us time.
And like it back under the water is chaos, but no one knows.
Exactly.
Well, it's exciting. You've got the Effigy burn happening in one day. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
24 hours.
Now, well, I want to talk about the effigy and the temple this year, but should we leave that spoiler towards like the end of the discussion? We can cycle back to it. So this year we've got quite a few Aussie burners attending it also as well. So I just want to shout out, and for the first time, I think it's their first Kiwi burn. So shout out to all the Aussie burners out there who's helping out, probably blowing their minds right now. How does it look on site right now, guys?
The weather's beautiful. The sun's been shining. It's been dry. We're in a bit of a valley here, so the nights do get relatively cool, but the weather's been amazing. We are expecting rain in a couple of days, but then New Zealand weather forecast can be trusted. Wait, look out the window, basically. So yeah, so far it's going really well. And one of our site manager, 2IC, is actually an Aussie burner, and this is his first Kiwi burn.
No, and we had our official night last night. So everybody's warmed up, dancing away, music blaring, ramping up for tomorrow night for the Effigy burn.
Well, for the listeners out there, what's the temperature like? What's the average temperature, and how cold does it get?
Ooh.
So average temperature during the day has been in the 20s. I can give you a hot. So it's 22 at the moment. High will be 25 at the moment. It's a bit cloudy. It's just past midday for us. And at night it gets down to, there was a couple of nights ago we were in the single digits, about 9 degrees. That gets a bit nippy, but sort of 12 to 14 degrees at night.
Yeah. So how's the situation with the burn permits? You guys are holding this event in summer, and usually with our summers, it's quite too hot to burn, and it's quite dangerous. And there's forestry regulations as well. What's the situation with the burn permits in New Zealand?
So the district we're in is one of the critical areas for forest fires, and particularly scrub fires with farms and things like that. So every year we're basically operating on the shoulder of a fire restriction or a total fire ban. We came close this year. Fortunately, we got a couple of weeks where we got insufficient rain for them to downrate it. We've had an event about 3 years ago where we managed to persuade them to delay the complete fire ban from the Friday night to the Monday. So we managed to squeeze our 2 burns in. And that was because we have a full fire service on site. So a full fire appliance and full team. So we managed to persuade the New Zealand Fire Service to hold off for 48 hours and let us have our fun.
They're also burners. That helps.
Yeah. And when did the build start? When did you guys start preparing for this event?
Each year we start around the 4th or 5th of January. So we let people have their New Year's Eve celebration. Then they move on to site with us. So there's, nearly 3 weeks build beforehand, and then there's just on a week back down afterwards.
And what was the experience like this year compared to previous years? You said it was a bit easier build, more relaxed.
Yeah. There's a good team being built up, and Xanthi, who's our MPW lead, is doing a tremendous job building up a very good culture, a very good community. Everybody's wanting to come back each year, and they're just all working as one big happy family team.
Yeah,
and that means a lot. They have a lot of fun, which also helps. They also have Dobros. That helps too.
What's that?
So for those in Australia who don't know, so Dobros is a double brown beer. So the equivalent perhaps of your Triple X over there. So that's the mascot for the MPW team is Dobros.
Sun-warmed Dobros. It's terrible beer, but it's the drink of Kiwiburn.
What does it actually taste like then if it's terrible?
I don't drink beer. I don't touch it. It does not pass my quality standards.
Some say it tastes like shit. Some say it tastes like piss. Some say it tastes like beer, but then that depends on your taste buds.
It's probably what they're but. So how was the were there any issues or anything that you could learn from this year? Anything different?
Always. I think one of the things that we're getting really good at is having continuity from year on year with the people, and that just helps making things a lot smoother. Like Andy's mentioned, Xanthi, this is her second year in charge of our MPW Ministry of Public Works. who are our on-site infrastructure team. But yeah, I mean, there's always learnings.
Next year is always better.
Yeah,
That's
obviously.
right.
No, so and also each year we bring new blood into the teams,
Mm.
so they look at things with fresh eyes and have new ideas. And we're also investing a lot in infrastructure and assets. So as those get nailed down each year, then we move on to the next project. So yeah, we're always improving. So 2 events ago, we put water on site. So that took away a lot of stress and for the participants having to bring their own water on site was no longer an issue. And we just tackle projects like that one at a time.
It should also be said that our site is somewhat unusual compared to many burns. We are in a paddock. So when we're not here, there's literally sheep and cows roaming the field. So it is grass. There's a forest. There's a river that we can swim in. So it's quite a lush environment that we are in. So for us to have water on site just made sense. And it's allowed us to focus more on sustainability so people can carpool easier. They can take public transport if they don't have to lug 20 liters of water each. So we literally have water dispensers around the corner that can people fill up their camp showers and whatever water they need for their everyday needs.
And
Yeah, that's
also,
it.
each year something will happen that becomes a learning exercise for us. So 2 years ago we had what we know as mud burn. So when we had torrential rain, and from that we learned a lot of lessons about how to handle things in terms of flooding and evacuation and getting vehicles off site. So we have all those contingency plans set in place and they've been tested. And the people involved are still with us, so we've got the experience on site as well.
Yeah, with the initiative with the water supply, it actually alleviates a lot of pressure on people. Yeah, bringing their own water. But it is self-reliant, so it's something that we should do naturally anyway. But it's a luxury to have it.
It is, yeah.
So Kiwiburn was involved with the Green Thing Camp community over in Burning Man, and when they were first starting off, and we held a slightly different approach to most people. So we look at self-reliance at different levels. So you have self-reliance as an individual. If you're a member of a camp, then there's self-reliance at a camp level, there's self-reliance at an on-site level, and then there's self-reliance as Kiwiburn Incorporated, and then self-reliance in terms of Kiwiburn community. So when we look at it that way, having individuals being self-reliant from water wasn't good for the environment. Being self-reliant at a event level was a much better way to approach it. So having 30,000 litres of tanks is far more effective than everybody bringing in 20 litres in single-use bottles and things like that.
Yeah.
So that brought about a bit of a change in other burns around the world as well, to start looking at not being so pedantic about self-reliance being purely by individual.
Yeah. We discussed this on the executive committee, which is our sort of organizing structure that we have for Kiwiburn. And we discussed this at length, like, does this, go against the self-reliance principle? And exactly as Andy said, when we announced it to the community, there was virtually no pushback. Everybody's like, it absolutely made sense. You're in a paddock. There's heaps of rain about. Why wouldn't we harness that and focus on sustainability and making things easier for people? It was a relatively easy exercise for us to put water on site. All the reasons Andy just mentioned, it just makes sense.
Yeah. Were there any other initiatives discussed? This is interesting.
Yeah.
It's something that I, like you're saying, as we progress into the future, we must look at all these issues in terms of how we're going to be more efficient and more caring for the environment, as well as be adaptable to the changing climates and environments. Were there any more other considerations that you guys talked about?
Yeah, I mean, we've done other things which are pretty standard now for most burns in terms of food composting. We've also installed composting toilets, and we've got human manure composting on site. So that's been trialled and tested and watched. COVID woke us up in terms of portaloos. So previously we had no trouble sourcing portaloos for our event. When COVID came along and we all restarted, the whole industry, as far as construction had changed, they no longer had stoppages over Christmas, New Year. So the portaloo pool that we used to tap into no longer existed, and we had 6 weeks to suddenly find 100-odd portaloos. And so we've gradually moved into replacing those with composting toilets. We also went out and bought a whole lot of second-hand portaloos, so they just had to be serviced rather than supplied. And the next project we've got is we're actually looking at converting second-hand portaloos into composting toilets. So that's the next thing on the agenda. But ideally, we want to become self-reliant as a site without needing to use portaloos and having them serviced and dumped and pumped and all the rest of it.
Mm.
We've also looked at things like transport of humans and goods to site. So we tried to organise something with theme camps if they wanted to organise a container load of stuff coming from main population centres like Auckland. But we were adamant that it wasn't going to be the organisers who had to run it. We have enough to do. If the community wants to effectively carpool their theme camp equipment, then we'll assist them, but they need to run it. And we haven't quite got there yet. There's talk of resurrecting it, and we'll see how it goes. We'll give them every support we can, but we do need the community to step up and run it themselves. So those are the sort of things we're looking at.
Mm.
Yeah,
Basically,
logistics.
sorry, go ahead.
So logistics is a big hurdle and a big consideration. Yeah. So you're going to say, Julia?
We're just taking a look at all the things that are pollutant and what we can do about it. I mean, generators, for example, if we could do something about that. And there's a number of conversations in a number of different areas of trying to focus on sustainability and where it makes sense and where we can.
Are you using a lot of solar kind of energy or solar kind of technology?
A little bit. We're trying to improve that. There's a lot of theme camps that do use it. And we also have, if you like, the villages concept. There's a village of people who are using solar. I'm also part of the RAC group associated with Player Art, where we're trying to get rid of fossil fuel generators and turn them over to solar power. So we've started a group in New Zealand to do that as well. And also our arts department is very much in favour of getting rid of fossil fuel generators for art pieces and converting to solar. So we're at the start of that path.
There's actually 3 theme camps this year, up from 2 last year, who are entirely powered by electric vehicles.
Vehicles? Wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how did they get there in the first place? They must have drained out all the battery, or they had spares, I guess.
They make it work, yeah. So they drive down and charge batteries. And then with 3, one camp has I think they've got about 12 members. And they're very well lit at night, and they do their cooking needs and everything else, whatever isn't gas powered, basically. And they source that all from the vehicles, 3 in that case. And apparently they're still able to drive off site. There is to be fair, there's a vehicle charging station about 20 minutes from here.
Yeah, right. So this is the location is Hunterville. So what's the local town or local community like there?
They're wonderful. We've been here now for 11 years. The first few years we were here, we kept a very low profile. We just came along, had our event, and went away and didn't cause any disturbance. We weren't particularly well known. And I became involved 7 or 8 years ago. When I became involved with that, I started reaching out to the community because they had lots of questions. They thought it was all a bunch of drunken hippies, drug, sex, rock and roll, the usual story. And we have managed to get them knowing us much better than that. So we hold a community barbecue the weekend before our event. We invite people who support us either through businesses or through the council or just members of the local community, the local iwi. And those who can come along to community barbecue, we feed them, we talk to them, we entertain them, we show them our art. And it's just changed things dramatically over the last few years. They've always been supportive, but they just didn't know what they were supporting before. Now they do, they're even more supportive. And a lot of them are joining in. So there's quite a few locals who are now coming as a burner to our event. We're also getting involved with a lot of community projects as well. So we reach out to them and say, what can we do to help you? Whether it's with setting up for some of their events. We've provided fire spinning demonstrations. We did one in September, we did one in December, we've got another one in the beginning of April. And we're just also intending to help with, if you like, civic projects as well. So whether it's the likes of tree planting or trying to build a building or something like that. And then in addition to that, the big one is public art. So we're endeavouring to get Kiwiburn art permanently in place, whether that's for 3 months, 6 months, 2 years or whatever, ranging from small art up to some of our large art. And that will just need a change in approach by the artists in terms of the materials they use. It's no longer got to last 3 days or 5 days. It's got to last 3 months, 6 months, or a year, and sustain the weather conditions and people climbing on it 365 days, not just 7 days. But that's the really big project we're working on at the moment.
And just a quick clarification, Andy used the word iwi. So iwi is the local Maori tribe, basically, As you can imagine, New Zealand has many tribes that govern different areas in their own ways. And it's obviously very important for us to work closely with Ngāti Hawiti, who happen to be the local iwi here, but just wanted to explain that word quickly.
And they again are very supportive because the Maori culture is very much family based and what they call marae based, and they view us as having a similar structure to our community and our culture, and they know that we look after the environment. They're happy for us to have the event here. They welcome us. And the only real direct involvement they ever asked for is if we ever do anything that involves the river, then we just run it past them. So if there's any artwork or anything like that that's going to be associated with the river, we just run that past them and get their approval, or they might have some suggestions or directions as to how it could be improved. No.
Yeah, can we talk about the site, the actual site, the layout, and the land as well? What can you tell us about in terms of are you guys always changing it around, or?
Not so much anymore. No, we've got effectively 3 paddocks. So we've got our top paddock, which is Effigy paddock. That's where the party is. That's where the sound camps are. All the doof happens up there, and it's genuine, like even elevation levels. Then we've got the middle paddock, which is where we are now. So not far out the door here is our temple. This is more, daytime sounds or the theme camps that are here. And then we have a lower paddock, again, down an actual physical embankment, small embankment, where there's a lot of general camping. And that's also where some kids camps are, for example, a little bit further out of the way.
Yeah, a bit more quiet camping.
Yeah.
And then that lower paddock then backs onto a forest. And once you walk through the forest, you're then into the river flats and the river. So we don't allow any camping in the forest due to the danger of falling branches, but we use that during the day and also at night for people to walk through. We have artworks in there, but we just don't allow permanent camping in there. And then we're basically down in a bit of a basin, so the surrounding area has very high cliffs, which works generally most of the time for us as far as sound dampening is concerned. We are, as I say, adjacent to a river, so that works against us in some ways, that sound does travel down it. But we work very closely with the council, so we have sound monitoring on neighbouring properties up to 3 or 4 kilometres away, and we have to put in a noise management plan and monitor that during the event, report afterwards. We go door knocking with the neighbours before the event, during the event, when we put up the sound equipment, when we take it down, and we follow up with them afterwards, normally with a thank you from Kiwiburn, whether that's a bottle-shaped one or something like that. But yeah, and then as Julia said before, we're on a beef and sheep farm. So we work with the landowner to make sure that the paddocks are available to us when we arrive in the beginning of January. It's on the tail end of their haymaking, so it can be a bit dicey at times to make sure the hay's been cut before we turn up. But we just recognise that we do impact his operation, so we're very grateful for being on site here. And you can actually come here a year after the event, look down from the top of the hill onto the site, and you can still see effectively the impact and the imprint of the marquees on how it affects the grass. So a lot of people think, it's nothing, it's just camping for a week, but it does impact the farmer year round. So we are very appreciative of being allowed to come here every year.
And the burn scars as well, those stick around for a while because it's literally on grass.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that the landowner wasn't quite a burner when we arrived.
He is now.
He might have been burner adjacent to some people, but he is now a solid convert to our cult.
We're not a cult.
Yeah, so you built that relationship throughout the years. Would you like to talk about that a bit more in terms of how important that is to? It is private land, I'm assuming.
Yeah. It's a family-owned farm. It's been in, I think, 4 or 5 generations, so it goes back to the 1800s type of thing. And we're in very close contact with the owner. We would consider ourselves friends as far as quite a few of us are concerned. I make a point of, I'm based up in Auckland, which is 5.5 hours away. I try and make a point of being down here every 6 to 8 weeks, and I meet the landowner, I meet the local council at various times if they are available, members or representatives of the UE, although that's not all that regular at the moment because they have other projects that are more important than Kiwiburn, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But it's just that regular contact, and it's not reaching out because we want something. It's just reaching out to say, hey, this is what we're doing. What can we do to help? Are there any concerns? and just building relationships, even if it's just going out, having a cup of coffee and catching up with people, finding out what their families are up to, and what's going on in the community, what their concerns are, how we can help.
And Julia, in terms of marketing, communications?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, so for clarity, so I look after, yes, the communications department, although we are rebranded as the Department of Propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Trust us.
Yes.
At your peril.
Yeah. We might be telling the truth, we might not. And we look after the website. We've got a newsletter, social media, also regular media. So I've done other interviews and whatnot before. Liaison of any kind, also graphics, design, photography, all of those sorts of things. We certainly don't need to market Kiwiburn. We're heavily
word of mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is a little bit of a bucket list burn for many international people as well. We have many Americans here. We have many Europeans here. Obviously, many that come year after year as well. But it is one of those things that people put on their list like, oh, one day I'll make it to Kiwiburn, because we are at, the ass end of the world here. So a little bit harder to get to. But yeah, so we certainly don't do any kind of marketing, but we're very much involved with raising awareness of what this event is actually about. Again, I'm one of those people, like, even I'm in a reasonably high-powered corporate job, and they know my involvement with Kiwiburn. I have no qualms about talking about that. Some do, of course, and that's perfectly fine. I don't. And so always on the forefront of making sure that people understand what Kiwiburn actually is, which is primarily, to me, an art festival. So it isn't about, like Andy mentioned, the drugs, sex, and rock and roll. I mean, that is a part of it, not going to lie, as you know, but it is also just an amazing community, which is probably the thing that I'm most proud of. So, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the unique animals and wildlife there on site, like sheep and cows, and what else can we find that's quite unique to New Zealand? Kiwis?
No kiwis on the site. No.
Hedgehogs?
We've got funny you should say. Yes, we've had a number of hedgehogs run-ins. We've got, there's quite a few possums. There's actually a feral cat population on land, which is very much considered a pest. Obviously, cats are not native to New Zealand, and they do a lot of damage to the bird population. Many birds, of course, and yeah, but other than that, there's the sort of farm animals that you get around. We've actually been unofficially dubbed Sheepburn this year, because there's a group of about 3 or 4 sheep that just keep wandering sight. We keep shooing them out. There's obviously a way through. We've considered wristbanding them and just welcoming them into the community. So the sheep are a little bit more part of the burn this year than they usually are.
Our rangers are also known in New Zealand as the Black Sheep Rangers, so they were considering inducting them into that group as well.
Yeah.
The one other animal species we have down here is native bats. So they are based in the forest, and the farm owner, along with other farmers in the area, are actually working on providing a green belt going through this area for them. So we're very wary of that, and we've had people who are taking note of whether we have any impact on the bat population in terms of their feeding habits. We believe we actually help it for a while, because when we burn things, we attract moths, and bats just love to eat them. But yeah, we're working with the local community and the farmers in the areas like that, also with the condition of the river. So there's trout and eels and things in there. So the local farming community is trying to improve the water quality population. So we keep in touch with them about that. But for our event, we don't allow anybody to put anything in the river that's apart from their body. So there's no soap, shampoo, or any essential oils or anything like that. So you can rinse yourself off, but that's the limit of it. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
I would actually say one other animal that's made its presence known more so than I've experienced previously are quite large wolf spiders. I have a pet one named Charlie in the Portaloo that I tend to use, so we have chats every night. But obviously this is New Zealand, so nothing's poisonous, nothing's going to bite you. I mean, they might bite, but they certainly aren't going to cause any lasting harm.
Well, in Australia, they do bite.
Yeah, but and they're good size.
Yeah, well, give us a sense. You said big. Give us a sense of like an average palm.
I'd say a cup.
Well, that would freak a lot of people out.
Yeah, well, we had one,
but they don't bite. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've not heard any spider bites. We have quite a few bees as well, but I don't think have we had any bee stings so far? No, and
So
obviously, they live here, so we're invading their land.
possibly the other unique thing about our site is that the landowner also is raising I was going to say pheasants and grouses. So he actually has shooting parties that come on site as part of his operation. So he raises thousands of those. So we have a lot of pheasants and grouse and things just casually wandering through the campsite at various times.
Yeah, it sounds lush. I can't actually. So I've never been to Kiwiburn or New Zealand, so I can't wait to visit and experience it. I've done a bit of research, and now tell me I've got this right. Now, Kiwiburn is a mustard economy, and DJs and bogans are beloved. Yeah.
Well, yeah, DJs
So
are made fun of. So if you come to Kiwiburn and you claim to be a DJ, you better have a good sense of humor. We've as the Department of Propaganda have pointed out many times, there's about 7 non-DJs, roughly, give or take half on site. So yeah, many people come and pride themselves on being DJ. We tolerate them. Really, I'm one of the 7 non-DJs. I believe it's safe to say.
I'm one of the others.
Yes.
So while we're in a position of power, we can still keep control of them.
Yeah.
We do follow the principle of inclusion, so we do allow them to come. Otherwise, we would have a very small population.
We tolerate them, but yes, we are absolutely this year. We are a mustard economy. It goes very well with sheep. So.
and that's from Hippie Tim. Is that right? He started the joke.
Correct. He did start that rumor, and then on Facebook it just took off.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. How it snowballed. Yeah.
It is heading towards cryptocurrency territory.
So. It is a bit.
Yeah.
There's some illegal mustard trading going on site, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, that's right. It's a black market for it. Yeah. Well, what about this year's lottery system? Now, that's quite different. I haven't really experienced it. I guess Burning Man used to do it as well. Let's talk about the lottery system that you guys adopted, the model.
That started a couple of years ago. So 3 years ago, for the burn that happened, that was Mudburn, I believe. That was 2022 that the sale happened. We are heavily oversubscribed, as I mentioned, and we had virtually all tickets in baskets within 10 seconds. Excuse me.
Yeah, so as Julia said, up until then it was basically the keyboard warriors, first in, first served. And there was a lot of backlash from the community about that because obviously a lot of them were disadvantaged if it happened to coincide with them. They were working when the tickets were released, if they had poor internet access and things like that. So we basically took an extended step approach to it. So we allowed 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it happened to be to register for the lottery. And then basically we completely randomised the order of who had applied. And we did all sorts of interesting things as to how we randomised that. Sometimes it was based on how quickly it took something to burn, and it was run independently of us, so it wasn't us influencing it. And that would just reallocate your position in the queue. We released the tickets and so on through. So that was our first movement towards a lottery system. And now in the process of effectively getting rid of the lottery system and moving to a 100% participation model, or volunteering model, some people will call it, depending on your definition of what volunteering is. But we mean that it includes things like participation in theme camp, presenting a theme camp, workshops, year-round work, as volunteers, on-site work as volunteers. So basically somebody who's contributing in some way. So this year I think we were 85% contribution. And so there was only a small number of tickets, just around 350, 400 tickets that went into that lottery system. Next year, plan is that there'll be 0 lottery, and everybody will be identifying as a contributor in one form or another.
Yeah, if other burns are looking at that system, that ticketing lottery system, what were some of the issues or feedback from it?
Well, as I said before, the main thing really with the lottery was because we are oversubscribed. Obviously, that's the problem. What we had to do was limit the number of tickets that people could buy. So if you went to the lottery, you could only buy 2 tickets. And even if you transferred one later on, you still couldn't go back for another bite of the cherry. And if you were a volunteer and got a ticket as a volunteer, it meant you could only buy 1 other ticket. So no one could go volunteering and then get in step and win the lottery and buy 2 tickets. So very careful with looking for multiple burner profiles or multiple email addresses and things like that, just to make sure that people weren't playing games and trying to get multiple access to buckets of 2 tickets at a time.
Double dipping.
Double dipping or triple dipping.
Sorry about my coughing.
I think the only other thing with the lottery was it just meant that because you were allocating that number of tickets to lottery, you have the likes of theme camps who are saying, hey, we contribute so much, but we don't get enough of our tickets for our theme camp to attend because you have to rely on the lottery. So that was also one of the movers towards a contributory model, and we do consider theme camps to be a big contributor, one of the biggest contributors along with artists. And obviously
and
theme
DJs.
camps, and DJs. But they don't need tickets because they're VIP, so they just fly in and fly out. So but yeah, that was one of the things, was that theme camps were getting caught short because of the lottery, and so moving more towards that contributing model took away that anxiety. But yeah, that was about it for the lottery. It was short-lived, but we tried it.
Yeah, he tried it. Yep.
And you obviously mentioned we've just conjured up our own ticketing system.
No, I haven't mentioned that.
Yes, well,
yep, you go.
Yeah, so we've been working with Quicket, who South African company, has recently been bought by Ticketmaster. So, boo his corporate overlords. So we've got some really clever IT whizzes that worked with our services facilitator, who is looking after ticketing, among many other things. And we've actually written our own ticketing system. I just had a chat with one of the main architects and coders that wrote it. And I know hours and, months, days have gone into writing this. It was a lot of work, but he did just say just this morning that in terms of the draw on his time in the lead up the last week or two before the event and during the event, it's been a fraction of what he had before, making all of his hard work over the last few months very much worth it. But we have our in-house ticketing system now. It's worked really well. So massive kudos to the team that's done this. There's still the odd ironing out, of course, as is with anything, but it's worked really quite well. Very, very proud of the guys.
And as Julia said, originally we've been using Quicket, and they are a South African company, but they are burners. So it's developed from a burner mentality, and it's used around the world by various burns, and they supported us really well. But running in parallel that, we wanted one source of truth for our volunteer management system, and we settled on using Airtable. So we would actually develop that first, and then the next logical step from that was, rather than having to interface with Quicket, we should have ticketing within the same group of apps. And so that was the next step, was bringing ticketing in-house and integrating it with burner profiles, the volunteer management system. So we do have one source of truth. We're not quite there yet. We had to do a little bit of fiddling this year to make things talk to each other. But the intention is that will all fit together like a glove. And it's open source, so we're happy to share our experience and how we do things with others. We've already talked with a couple of burns in Australia that have reached out to us. So yeah, that was the reason. That was the sort of the final straw to make us come in-house. And then, as Julia said, we found out that the Quicket organisation had been sold. But no disrespect to them, the individuals concerned were excellent. And I'm sure they will continue to give good service to the people who still use Quicket around the world.
Yeah, I do like the volunteer-based kind of ticketing structure. Do you think this will sort of like educate or inform more people about how the event runs?
And how do you mean? Sorry.
Well, if everything is not catered, we all do ourselves. So it's a duocracy sort of thing. So the volunteer actually makes the burn go around.
100%. I mean, we had a chap who's taken it upon himself to create an app for the event guide, for example. He did it last year. He stepped up his game, and nobody asked him to do this. It's very welcome. It's a very good app and gives you the map and everything, and also allows you to add personal events for yourself that aren't necessarily part of the event guide. So you can actually build a little bit of a sort of a plan for yourself. And that's a very good example, I think, of somebody seeing a need and just doing it. And it worked out really well. And we've told everybody about it. Reception isn't awesome on site, so it's available offline as well. But I think that's a perfect example of, like I said, somebody seeing a need and creating something in their own time, using their own resources that literally everybody can use.
Yeah, that's why I love you guys. You guys are setting the benchmark there, building your own apps and all that. I don't think we even have that here for our bands. So well done, especially
Kiwi ingenuity. It's part of, honestly, it's not just a burner thing. It's a New Zealand thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It really comes from being so remote compared to other places and having a small population. So although Australia is pretty close as far as being remote to other continents, you have a very large population to rely on. New Zealand's always been a small population, and if something broke, you fixed it and then you improved it. then you gave it to somebody else who took it to the next level.
Yeah.
So that's just what we're doing with our Airtable system.
Yeah, the events guide looks very. There's a lot to do. Have you guys experienced anything in the last 2 days that you've been on site?
It's actually Julia's annual headache preparing the event guide.
Yeah, it's so much.
Tell us about it.
It is days, because people put in events throughout once we open events, which is about August time this year. So people can add events. Obviously, there's also theme camp and theme descriptions. There's the map and there's the art map. And then sometimes there's descriptions about, like this year, we're including artists' own words about the effigy and the temple. And but we never know what we're going to get in terms of the file to then create the physical A5 event guide until we actually download it. As I'm sure you can imagine, people want to get in at the last minute. Oh, I haven't done it yet. They've had months. But people so often they'll ask us to hold it for the last minute. We work with printers in Auckland who are very patient and very good with us. But the formatting of the event guide every year is an absolute pain in the you know what, because like I said, we don't know what we're going to work with. So there's a lot of shuffling. I also have to go through from a comms perspective, make sure nothing's being said that shouldn't be said. There's a number of things that we obviously don't condone drug use or anything like that. We can't have that in official communication. So making sure that that's all square. We had a visit from the police, and I literally handed them a copy of the event guide, and I want to be able to do that knowing there's nothing in there that would cause us any kind of issue. But yeah, so it's just I have designers as part of my comms team, and we go through that, and we arrive at a printable version every year. We get it done, but it's many sleepless nights.
Was the police presence? Was it just a routine checkup, or how's the relationship with law enforcement?
Very good. It's all part of that community outreach, and it's also part of our resource consent. So similar to Australia, the local district council has to issue permits to us, and that has various requirements, and annual requirements. That is, all emergency services have to be contacted. Generally, with hospitals, the mental health unit, people like that, they just want to know the events running, what are the dates, blah, 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 site manager phone number. With the local community police, we actually invite them on site to come and have a walk around and see what it's all about. They do not interfere with our event whatsoever. There's some things I can't say. But
are they interested in participating?
They probably would do. Some of them have indicated interest, and I can safely say that we know there are certain members of our community who happen to wear a blue uniform, but not when they're on site. But no, they're fully aware of what activities might go on site, but they know that we as a community look after ourselves. We have full medical support services. So we have our contracted medical providers who can take treatment to a certain level. They then have the Kiwiburn volunteers who they coordinate, but some of those volunteers are much more professionally qualified, skilled, and experienced than the professional hire service that we have. Mm-hmm. And that means that those people can step in if there's an emergency. They can then go to the next level. They can supply and administer drugs that our contract service can't. And we also obviously have immediate availability for helicopter evacuation if something is serious. And those people can actually not only call it in, but they can also travel with the patient, things like that. So that the local police know that we support our community internally. We never impact the external community. We don't have people who are drunk and rolling around in the town or anything like that. They see our people come in and help clean up and participate in events. So they're very, very supportive. And one thing I would like to point out is that Kiwiburn many years ago started drug testing. We did that initially on an unofficial basis because it was illegal at the time. And that gradually developed and was happening unofficially. We couldn't advertise it, but everybody knew it was happening. And the organisation, Know Your Stuff, were pushing for it to be made legal. We almost got it across the line once. It was vetoed by one vote. But the second time round, it became illegal in New Zealand and also supported in New Zealand. So you can test for drugs, you can educate. Obviously, you do not promote drugs, but it's basically harm reduction.
The harm reduction. What was the pushback? Why was it that got less votes, or like people were against it?
Well, it was a parliamentary vote, obviously, but yeah, people are just assuming that if you are there, that there's a correlation between allowing drugs to be tested and people taking more drugs. Obviously, that is the wrong perception in that case. Wouldn't you? Drugs are going to be a thing, whether you want them to or not. Wouldn't you much rather know what's actually in them and keep our people safe?
And so when it went through the first time, it was even supported by both the police association, so those who represent the police front line. It was also supported by the police commission, but it was just purely a political, if you like, one-man band that decided that they were going to take a stand against this and prevent it from happening. But second time round, it went through with full support. And our Kiwi burners have been recognised, so they've received the Queen's Service Medal and things like that for their services to the country. And it's now, that program is now funded by the government, and their model is being used elsewhere.
Yep. It makes everything so much easier if medical professionals know what kind of drugs they might be dealing with versus with what people think they're taking. We publicize this information as well, so we'll say we've got more of one thing or another thing, or this type of drug isn't as pure this year, or whatever, and we publicize that so to let other festivals know as well if there's certain things happening in the undercurrent.
Yeah, I think
the whole process is totally anonymous, so there's no repercussion. The police do not take action against anybody who's having drugs tested or anything like that. And it also provides very useful feedback for the police in terms of what drugs are out there, whether there's any bad ones, what the consequences could be for the emergency services. We've seen that in the last couple of years, where there's been some drugs that have been contaminated or whatever, and that has led to serious medical events through the country. But know your stuff gives them the heads up in advance that these things are entering the country and services can be prepared for it.
Yeah, education is very important.
100%.
Now, one of my favourite things is to listen to people's origin stories, the burner stories. Would you like to share with the listeners how you got involved in the community and how did you find the localised Kiwiburn community? How did you discover that?
I'd actually heard about Burning Man many, many years ago. As you can tell by my accent, I'm not from around here. And I was traveling across the US, and this was in 2003. And I was in the area and I heard about Burning Man. However, I was also traveling with a cat, so I couldn't actually go.
No pets allowed.
No pets allowed, no. And many years later, I arrived in New Zealand, and I was actually going on a first date with the person that happened to be the temple builder for the next Kiwiburn. We met in November 2017, and he was building the temple for Kiwiburn 18. And he spent much of our first day talking about the big erection that he was going to be involved in.
On a first date?
On the first date. And he told me a little bit about Kiwiburn then. I actually helped with building elements of the temple. Didn't make it to that burn, but started to become involved as a volunteer very shortly after. So I've been volunteering for a year before ever coming to my first burn. This person and I are actually still very close friends. We're no longer dating, but we're still very close friends. But he's introduced me into the community. I'd like to think I've made it my own now. I've been on XCOM for 5 years this year. And again, I was involved for a couple of years, in other capacities, always as part of comms. I can talk, I can write. So that makes sense for me to hang out in that department. But again, it's in my nature to want to get involved pretty quickly. I always joke that all of us, certainly on the executive committee, there's a fair sprinkling of neurospice through all of us, and other sort of traits that are common amongst us. We're all reasonably opinionated, we're strong personalities, and we do this because we care and because we're in a position to actually make a difference and change the event. Some of the infrastructure elements that we've brought on site, such as water, are changing the face of Kiwiburn, I believe, very much for the better, and I take enormous pride in being involved in that. So that's my story.
Cool.
So I became aware of Burning Man probably in the early 2000s. So that was through my interest in art, particularly large art and particularly large public art. And I saw what was going on over there. I couldn't actually make it because I was a self-employed consultant and couldn't afford to take time off. And so then probably about 8 years ago, I decided I'd worked hard enough and long enough that I could retire early. And that was about the 16th of December. And I found out the Kiwiburn was happening 4 weeks later. So I put my hand up to volunteer, came on site, made the mistake of going to the town hall meeting. And they announced there that the then treasurer was about to immigrate to the UK permanently, and no one was putting their hand up, and the society would be folding without all its officers. I had made the mistake of befriending the regional contact Lumos, who many on the podcast may know, and happened to be standing next to him and said, "Oh, look, I've got accountancy background. I can stand in for a few weeks before you recruit someone." So my hand was immediately raised by Lumos. 7 years later or 8 years later, I'm still the treasurer.
Yeah.
And then probably, I think 5, 6 years ago, we had a few changes in the chair rotating through, and it didn't quite settle in. And so I said I'd step in as acting chair while we recruited somebody and spent a lot of time recruiting them. We never found anybody, so...
For treasury, yeah. Or
no, for a chair.
Chair initially, sorry.
Yeah. And so in the end, I said, look, I've been acting chair enough. I'm working with outside parties like councils and people like that, and staying on the acting chair doesn't give them much confidence. So I'd rather be the permanent chair, and we'll find her a treasurer. And so I became permanent chair. And basically, I spend a lot of my time liaising with external parties. So most burns have somebody who does that, dealing with councils and government agencies and police and people like that. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years. So basically, more or less, I think my wife would agree fully, basically full-time Kiwiburn. And it can be anywhere from sort of 20 hours up to 60 or 70 hours a week for the various roles that we do. But we do it because we love it. That's our passion. We wouldn't be doing it otherwise.
Yep.
We do have to have thick skins. So a lot of people don't understand and throw various things at us. But I always say to our new facilitators, just grow a thicker skin. You know why you're doing it. People will understand eventually, but we do sometimes have to make the tough decisions. And it's really, probably need to do a bit more self-promotion to make people aware of what goes on behind the scenes. And we're doing that partly by bringing more and more people into the, if you like, the organisation. So bringing in event delivery team rather than just having an event manager, giving people the exposure and experience to understand that it's not just, hey, it only takes 5 minutes to get 2,000 people on a paddock. It's actually 363 days of preparation, if not more. We're actually more or less thinking about not just the next burn, but the one after. I personally am thinking about our 25th anniversary, which is another 4 years away. We've only just had our 20th, but let's start thinking about the 25th. Let's make that a big one.
Yeah.
So there's a lot goes on behind the scenes, and people also don't realise that once you get to a certain size, there's a lot more factors come into it, like councils, government regulations, health and safety, and so your team just gets larger and your responsibilities get larger. So there's a lot that has to go on. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made that the general community just aren't aware of.
Yeah.
But as I say, we do it because we love it. We wouldn't be doing it otherwise.
Yeah, awesome. I'd love to hear more about the Kiwiburn organisation. Shall we take a quick break and we'll come back? I've got a Kiwiburn trivia to test your memories. Then we can talk about previous Kiwiburn events as well. So how about we take a short break and we'll be right back after these burner messages.
Yo, it's Christian here from the Camp of Loose Ends. Started the Camp of Loose Ends a very long time ago at Rainbow Serpent. It's been to nearly 20 burns, which have been Japan burn, Kiwi burn, all three of Australia's burn modifiers, modifier, Blazing Swan, Burning Seed, plus the Big Band twice. Been to 20 burns in total. We'll be going over to Blazing Swan and also setting up the Camp of Loose Ends at Burning Seed this year, which would be great. So come down and enjoy yourself. I really love the Australian burner community. Feels like people are very connected to Earth, very connected to nature. Whereas like going to all the other burns can be a little bit different. America's not really a natural burn. It's like how big can you go? Japan burn's really quirky. Kiwi burn's really beautiful and soft and gentle, but the people are like us. They're a lot more connected into land, which is why I really love the Australian Burning Man community, because there is that that connection to land. It's not all about, hey, look at me, I'm so cool. It's more about let's connect and really get in. Although that is prevalent, and a functionality of all the burns. Really beautiful space, Burning Man, and love to be a part of it.
Hi there, I'm Lumos. Kiwiburn is my home burn. Back in 2008, I drank long and hard of the Kool-Aid. As a result, I've rangered at many Australian burns. This year I plan to continue my tasting of Aussie burns, taking in Burning Seed, Blazing Swan, and Third Degree. with a side dish of Africa burn.
Okay, we're back. How do you guys go with trivia? Do you guys love trivia?
Everybody loves trivia.
Doesn't mean we're good at it.
I've got
No.
I've got some Kiwiburn trivia here for you. Shall we? Let's see how you go with your memory. Let's start. Okay, so question 1. In what year was Kiwiburn not on?
There's 2.
When did it happen? That's right, yes, that's right. Not just 1 year.
Yeah.
2019 and 2022.
Yep.
Correct. Well done. Okay. Why was Kiwiburn cancelled in 2019?
The resource consent hadn't been processed.
Julia, do you know why?
No, that's correct. So there was a resource consent issue in 2019. Very different reasons for cancellations in 22. There was a virus going around. I don't know if you heard of it, but it was a bit of a worldwide, pandemic issue. We burned in 2020 because our event is so early in the year. We got away with it. But like before anybody knew what this COVID thing even was. In 21, because of New Zealand's fairly no excuse.
More progressive.
Yeah, aggressive approach, I think is a good word. We were pretty much COVID free in 21, but by 22 it had crept up again. So we made the hard decision in December of 21 to not have a burn for 22. And then the country went into restricting events 2 days before we would have otherwise happened. So it was a good decision.
Well, that was my third question. Why was Kiwiburn cancelled in 2022? Yeah, you're right. The pandemic. Okay, so question 4, how many one-word theme have Kiwiburn used?
One word.
There's several, actually. One-word theme. So this year is
Decadence,
Decadence.
Yep.
Metamorphosis, missing a picnic, time travel.
That's not one word.
No, was that 2 words?
No,
2 words, yeah.
Right.
not in Kiwiburn.
Exactly. There's 1 word.
Okay, the answer is metamorphosis. You're right. Combustion unity.
Yep. Yep. That's an old one. Yep.
Elementally, enlightenment. Word, as in WYRD,
Wide.
and decadence.
Wide.
Sorry?
Wide with a Y.
Wide.
Wired.
Yeah, wide, not weird or word.
Yeah.
So there was 6.
All right.
So yeah, 6 themes.
Nice.
Yeah, cool.
Nice trivia.
In what year was the theme "Robots Are Coming" used for Kiwiburn?
17? Was it 17?
Yeah, yeah. That's you're right. Well done. Yeah. Do you remember that, Bern?
I wasn't there. That
Andy?
was the year before.
Yeah.
I joined.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Question 6. 2016 was the year that Kiwiburn grew from 900 attendees to almost 1,500. What was the theme that year? Do you remember? 2016. So a year previous to Decadence.
Is that the Wanderer?
When was the robots?
The robots was 17.
Yeah, 17. So yeah. So a year before the robots are coming.
Oh, damn.
No.
Potluck and emotion.
Ah, yes.
That's an interesting theme.
Yes. The potluck. Yes.
Okay. Metamorphosis was the theme for Kiwiburn in 2007. Do you know the numbers of burners at the event?
Sorry, what year?
2007.
Wouldn't have been very many.
So this is when, that's right. Yeah. It's very early days. So it would have been a few hundred.
Yeah, 500-600.
Yeah, that was when it moved location, and so I'd say
207.
Yeah, I would say it was probably around the 300 maximum.
It was less than that. It was 145.
Oh my goodness.
So this is the early days, back 2007.
Yeah.
So,
We had the first couple of years on the top of the South Island, then we moved north, and that was Metamorphosis.
Manaki now, yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't even in the country at that point.
In what year was time travel news as a theme?
Well, that was the burn.
Yeah.
Ironically, that was cancelled. So we had picked that theme for 2022, and then very fittingly traveled it forward by a year and used it for what turned out to be Mudburn in 2023. But it was technically the theme for 2 burns.
Yeah, that's what I got down as well. Mudburn 2023.
Yeah, it was very.
What do you remember about that? What do you remember about that burn?
Mud, wood chips. It was.
Was it traumatic?
I wouldn't say traumatic. It was just It was a hard lesson for us to learn, because I think we always knew it was a matter of time until we had a rained out event. We've been very lucky. This is a relatively stable time of year, as the world is changing as well, though, with those kinds of things. And we had what they call the century event. There's a few of those these days, of just a massive storm system descending on us. And we actually, here in the Rangitikei, caught the tail end of it. The North Island and Manukau in particular was much more affected than we were, but it rained a lot. And the other issue that we had is that it had rained a fair bit in the lead up. So that meant that the ground was already saturated. Again, there's sheep and cattle on the paddock. So there were many grooves, and like in particular in the upper paddock, where it was actually quite hazardous to walk around from all the cattle that had been through, and the ground is soft and hardens and softens and hardens. So the water table was relatively high. Our biggest concern really was to get people out safely. So we ordered many, many tons of wood chips that we put down. It wasn't actually, by the time Monday came around, it actually wasn't that big a deal to get people out. We never got anybody properly stuck. We also have farm vehicles and ways to get old camper vans dislodged from the mud. The biggest problem for me personally was probably the river, because the forest area, we keep a lot of art there, and the river is a big feature of the burn, and we had to shut the entire forest area because of flooding risk. The river was a torrent, definitely not safe to swim in, and it meant that there was a huge element of Kiwiburn was lost in the forest, in the river, and in the art. I myself never actually got to see any of the art in the forest because we had to shut it off for safety reasons. So that was probably the biggest learning for me.
Yeah. And the other aspect too was that, as Julia said, basically if people had the patience to wait until the official close on Monday, we had everything in place. We had the means to get people out, but the problem was that the flooding up north and also in other areas of New Zealand was so severe that there was a lot of our participants whose houses had just disappeared, or who had relatives who were badly affected. So we were trying our best to get them out ahead of time so they could go and resurrect their lives outside of Kiwiburn. So that was quite hard for us, both physically and also mentally, having to deal with people whose lives had just been devastated, and we had to get them out of there so they could go and sort their lives out. And some of those people are still in a situation, many years later, still trying to get their houses and insurance and other aspects of their lives sorted out. So it was a major upheaval for a large part of our community.
Yeah. As you can imagine, Wi-Fi and access to, cell phone coverage and whatnot isn't super awesome on site because we are in a bit of a valley. So by the time information started to trickle through, there were some reasonably dramatic videos. So yeah, people started hearing what was potentially happening. Auckland is the biggest town in New Zealand. By extension, the majority of burners live in the Auckland area. And a lot of people simply didn't know what they would come back to as well. So it was quite dramatic from that sense. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, it's unusual that we get this kind of downpour, kind of wet weather in the summer.
Oh, it was a cyclone. I mean, it was a full-on cyclone.
Oh, right.
And it was, and it was, again, a century weather event. And it rained for much longer and much harder than they forecast. Again, I wouldn't want to be a meteorologist in New Zealand. It's fairly changeable, but yeah, it was just one of those things that was out of the ordinary. Might happen more often now, obviously, the world over. But yeah, nobody knew quite how bad it was. And then when reports started to trickle through of buses driving along on the motorway, and the buses were literally like you had to put your feet on the seat in order to keep your feet dry in the bus. That's pretty scary stuff.
Now let's continue. The next question is, in what year did Kiwiburn reach over 2,000 attendees?
Well, that's fluctuated. I would have thought that was Floodburn. No. Yeah. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
2021 and 2023.
Yeah. Because last year there's another burn adjacent event that runs every other year called Ignition. And we're a small island, small community, so it draws on many of the same people. So last year was an ignition year, as it were. So Kiwiburn was significantly smaller as a result.
Okay, next question. What was the 2021 Kiwiburn theme? I like this one.
Mythical
This
Picnic,
theme.
I think.
Correct. Yes, well done.
Can you
In what year did
Can you tell that the Julia's communication department is responsible for producing the patches, the badges, the stickers, and, and designing them?
Well, that was also the
Well,
year
she's doing very, very well.
I was on site the whole build, so yeah, I remember 21 better than most.
In what year did Kiwiburn move site from Mangakino to Hunterville?
We have now been on site for 11 years on the current site.
Yeah, so 11 years ago.
2014.
Correct, 2014. Well done. How many burns did Mangakino host it?
I think they were from the third one onwards.
And it's our 21st anniversary this year.
So
You're doing some good math there.
Hmm?
You're doing some good math calculations there.
This is the accountant.
Yes.
So we went from 2006 through to 2013, I believe.
That's right. Yeah, 2007 to 2013, correct? Yes, so 7 altogether. They hosted 7.
Next.
And how about Hunterville? How many have Hunterville?
11.
This is our 11th year and our 9th event. Two
Correct.
cancellations.
9.
Yeah.
Plus, so 10 this year, yeah. What was the theme for Kiwiburn in 2020?
2020 was Electric Avenue.
Decade.
Decade. Yes, Electric
Yeah,
Avenue.
was it decade?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
And bonus points. How many people do you reckon you had that year? Do you remember?
About 1,800, something like that?
About 1850.
Yeah, just under 2,000. From what I've got here from the Wiki burner site is the
Yeah.
1995. So
You never
that's
trust.
a good year
You never
too.
trust that because it comes from the communications or propaganda department.
That's right.
Yeah, and it doesn't get updated, but that's the only source of information we have at the moment. Yeah.
That's because it's all secret.
Okay, so
We can't reveal it. It was actually 3,000 people, but we don't tell people.
Yeah.
right, okay, that's a lot. Yeah. So disaster holiday was a theme used for Kiwiburn in what year?
I do not know.
Disaster holiday.
That would have been an early one.
This would have been before your
This
time.
will be an early one back in Mangakino days.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'd say about 2009.
Yeah, 2012, a bit more later than that, yeah. Okay, 2011 featured the theme titled Twisted what? Twisted?
Frequency.
No,
Mhm.
Twisted Frequency is a whole nother. I don't remember. I can sort of see it. Twisted. Don't remember.
Twisted reality.
Actually, that's not what
That's
I
a
was
cool one
thinking
too.
at all. So I would have been, yeah.
Okay, final one. What was the theme for Kiwiburn in 2014? This is when you guys moved sites. 2014. You've forgotten already?
Can't speak for sure.
It was
Forgotten?
before my time.
Well, it was well before my time, yeah. I don't.
Well, there is the word forgotten in it. Forgotten dreams.
Of course, yes. Well, you're asking us to remember 21 years of themes, but yes, there we are.
Yeah, well, that's also for the listeners out there as well,
Absolutely,
for the
of
old time
course.
burners
Yeah.
who's actually been to it.
And-
Okay, so let's get a quick background of and history of Kiwiburn. If you guys can fill us in terms of how it became about.
Well, we have a sort of a godfather of Kiwiburn. Yonerman is his name, and he visited Burning Man and thought, and I'm not entirely sure of the year.
Yeah, so he
2003 or something.
he was actually a geologist working with the University of New Zealand and would go on sabbaticals to Nevada. And one year he happened to be out in the desert and heard about this thing called Burning Man and wondered what the hell's that. Went to it, fell in love with it, went back to it, and then decided he wanted to bring it to New Zealand. So he went and did a presentation to the board, to Larry, and said, I want to take this to New Zealand. And Larry said, that's wonderful. You're going to be the first burn outside of the US continent. So that was in 2004.
Mm.
And
So the first international
Correct.
burn community.
yeah,
Correct.
outside of the US, yep.
Hmm.
We had some close competition, but because we happened in January, we beat the others out by a few weeks. But yeah, Yonderman brought it to New Zealand, so it started it actually started as a sub part of another event. So they were run in parallel to share resources, and then it just got expanded a little bit. And then after 2 years, it moved up into the North Island because it was just too much for the population to go down to that area. And so that's how it all started.
Is he here this year?
Hmm?
Is Yonerman here?
He's normally here most years, yeah. Yep. We keep dragging him
Yeah, cool.
back to see what he's created.
Yeah. It's all grown up now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
We're
that's beautiful.
coming of age. We're
Yeah.
21.
Hmm. Now you talked about the organisations earlier and what you do. How important is having this volunteer based kind of operations? And also, the question is, how does a festival or how does an event that runs entirely by volunteers continue to operate that way? How do you guys actually successfully manage?
Kicking and screaming. So yeah, we've got our executive committee that has a number of facilitators on them, and then reasonably traditional structure underneath that. How do we do it? Well, again, we try from our facilitators. We generally ask that they commit for 2 years, and then if they are thinking of stepping down, obviously, I mean, life happens, but that's what we try. And then if somebody is thinking of stepping down, that they bring a 2IC on at a reasonably early stage and get them inducted. So we've had that with services, for example. We've had our awesome Chloe, who's been looking after services for a few years now, and she knew that she was going to step down after this burn. So for the last several months, actually, her 2IC has been joining XCOM meetings. I think it's going to be the smoothest handover ever, so that we get better at succession planning. That's not something that we've been historically super awesome at, partly because of the volunteer element. So somebody leaves, again, there's a life event that happens, and then they kind of vacate their post, and the rest of us are like, right, so figure this out. But that's one of the things that we're actively trying to address, is to try to keep people in roles as long as possible. I do feel the need to shout out to my own team at this point, the comms team. I've had people that have been on the comms team for years and years. Comms runs itself now, which allows me to be a true facilitator and just remove obstacles and be more involved with governance versus the day-to-day running of my team. They are a well-oiled machine, so I'm very, very proud of them. And that's kind of, and there's other teams that are aspiring to that. But that's probably the biggest thing is longevity in roles and empowering people to make decisions and finding the right people and succession planning.
Yeah, you have some really talented writers, web gurus, photographers, social media
Absolutely
people, and community liaisons. So yeah, well done.
Our shit posting is on point.
And also read on your profile there something about shark attack or something. Shark attach. What's this about?
Yeah, well, I couldn't tell you too much about it, but yes, for some years, a friend and I ran, the same friend that's introduced me to Kiwiburn. We came across a drink in a bar in New Orleans called the Shark Attack, and I can't tell you too much about it because it has a significant surprise element. But we took the shark attacks on a roaming event throughout Kiwiburn, and it's the making of a cocktail involving the Rangi Tiki shark, which is very much fictional, and yeah, so it's just good fun. It's a bit of performance art that results in a yummy cocktail.
Yeah, cool. And Andy, you also on the profile page, you also submitted a long-term viability plan as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Tell us about that.
When I came on board, the one thing I found that was lacking was that we were working from year to year, and people didn't know whether they could start a project, whether it would be continued the next year and things like that. And also because obviously the population did want to grow, we just couldn't do it without some planning, much as burners hate to plan. So we had to come in with some sort of plan that said, where does our population want to head to? What services and support do we need to make that happen? And therefore, what money do we need to make it happen? And what money we have got, what are we going to ring fence for various things? And one of the big things was saying that we are ring fencing some money as a contingency. So if we have a bad weather event or something like that, it doesn't take us under. So although we subscribe to the fact we're not for profit, we don't want to make a surplus, we had by default made some small surpluses, but we then said we have to have a certain amount of money in reserve so that we can continue from year to year without having to worry. And so we started to plan on that basis and plan things like infrastructure build, major asset purchases in terms of plant and equipment and things like that. And in the back of the minds of everybody was, would we ever buy our own property? That may have gone out of the window over the last 10 or 12 years with the way property prices have gone, and also the fact that we've got a very good site here. But we needed to have that long-term planning so people knew that if I was an infrastructure facilitator and wanted to start a project, that next year it wasn't going to be chopped off because somebody didn't like the idea anymore. and that those funds were committed for 1, 2, 3 years, whatever. Still haven't got to a 10-year plan yet.
That's the grand vision.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you guys love about your roles in helping out with the community?
The biggest thrill, if you like, that I get is watching people grow. So helping them to get into a position, even though they think they can't do it sometimes, giving them the self-confidence and the support and the backup that they need. People often come to me and say, "Oh, I want your opinion on this," and I'll just say, "Well, what's your opinion? And what do you think is right or wrong about that opinion?" And one thing I always say is somebody going to get killed or badly injured? If not, why don't you just try it and see what happens? And if it doesn't work, didn't work, try something else. The world will keep spinning. Kiwiburn will still happen, and just let them develop their own confidence in their own decisions and their own abilities. And they've got the support of everybody. And we instill that not just in XCOM, but in all our team leads as well, that they've got the full support of those, I hate to say the word above them, but the people who are facilitating them, the people who are alongside them in other teams, but also their own team members have a lot of confidence in them that people aren't often aware of. But that's the thing I love most about it, apart from the art, of course.
I can hear a bit of the music. I'm just
it's
enjoying the music.
Started out. Yeah, for me, it's similar.
That's cool.
I'm enormously proud of my own team. Watching the people go, myself as well. I have learned so much being part of this community, things that I would never get a chance to be exposed to in my real life, as it were. It's the community that I just really connect with, because there's some amazing people here. Obviously, the creativity, the yarns at camp is probably one of my favorite parts of every burn. It's just sitting around shooting the breeze with like-minded people. One of the qualities that I look for in people that I surround myself, the number one quality I look for is authenticity. And that's kind of built into the burner community by and large. It's very hard to find inauthentic people around here. And when I walk across the paddock and I see people truly being themselves, and again, for some people, these 5 days is the only time where they can truly, truly be whoever it is that they want to be. It fills me with enormous warmth to know that I had a tiny part in helping making that happen and driving it forward. So that's the driving force for me, is the community, the people in it.
Yeah, you also look after the social media aspect of things.
Yep, that's a full-time job.
Yeah, so it's the landscape of social media is changing. So how do you see, in terms of how we use this technology, or how do you see what are some of the challenges ahead for our community in social media?
I think the same challenges that the rest of society faces, to be honest. So I had never been on Facebook until I got involved with Kiwiburn, and now I run the Facebook side, so I had to get on it. I'm actually on Facebook under a pseudonym because I hate it so much and I hardly ever post anything, but I have to be on there to be the administrator. And when I first got on, I almost chucked the whole thing in a couple of days in, because I was dismayed with what people would say online that they wouldn't never say to somebody's face. That's always my measure, right? If you wouldn't say it to the person, don't bloody say it at all. And there was a bit of venom. It was actually not the Kiwiburn side. It was Kiwiburn adjacent that happened. But I also have to say that, again, social media is one of the areas where the community really comes into its own. I and my team moderate the Kiwiburn Facebook page and group site. And the group has got like 13,000 people in it now. So it's got a fair reach. Both of them have thousands of people. So, we've got group rules, of course, and we moderate those. We know our people. We know when a certain post pops up, we're a little bit more alert than others. But by and large, the community really manages these things quite well and kind of puts people in their place, gently or not, depending on the issue. In terms of how it's changing, there's obviously a lot of chatter about whether Facebook is an appropriate platform. And every year, again, I'm not a fan myself at all. But at the same time, we also have a duty to try to reach the most people with pertinent information and give them that platform. So unfortunately, for the foreseeable future, I don't see it changing off of Facebook. Again, we have a newsletter as well that we send out, and everything goes in the newsletter first before it then is posted online, unless it's something very urgent. But it is interesting how it's changing, how people are interacting on Facebook versus how they're interacting in real life, as it were. I haven't necessarily seen it get much worse. I think it's Facebook or the social media sites themselves that are changing versus the people on them. So I actually think the change is driven by the platforms versus the people on the platforms. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, from the top down.
That's
yeah.
exactly right. So we're very aware of that. Photography is another one of my departments, and generally in the aftermath of the event, photography is the biggest subject. People continuously post pictures they shouldn't. I have to admit that Kiwiburners are particularly camera shy. So I have a team of on-site photographers that are briefed repeatedly on consent. We've also run a yellow wristband initiative. I don't actually wear one myself. I don't think I have one to show you because I'm one of the camera shy ones. But we give out yellow stretchy wristbands at greeters that are an indication of consent to be photographed by our official photographers. So again, lots of changes in that element, like post-COVID, the burn in 21 in particular was huge from a photography standpoint, because I think people had sort of retreated back into their bubble as part of COVID. We were pretty much the only burn that happened in 2021. And I think people had a strong need to share their life more so than they otherwise would. So we just saw an explosion of photography and photo related issues that we're still managing the fallout, because that's kind of people have an increased need to document their lives and to share that widely. So that continues to be my biggest challenge, actually, is to keep the photography under wraps as much as we can, in terms of the people and anybody being identifiable and whatnot. So that continues to be the biggest challenge and the change that COVID has brought.
Yeah, I do like the implementation of the wristband. Yeah, it's all
you
about
still hear us?
education and communication. I think comes down to that.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. So we do our best to make sure the community is briefed. So we have many posts going out. Again, there's a weekly newsletter, or certainly it's been weekly for the last few months, that we stuff full with information. There's a survival guide online. And again, there's the community itself, which polices itself very well online. Every now and then we have to step in and do moderation. But yeah, that's primary. The purpose of the propaganda department is to educate, is to provide a platform for information and information sharing.
Yeah, cool. Let's talk about the burner, the NZ, the New Zealand burner community and culture. For the people that's not familiar, how would you describe Kiwi burners? How are they different to other regionals and other burns?
I haven't been to other burns, so I can't talk.
Yeah, I think it's just the fact that they are Kiwis. We do tend to, as we said before, we're remote, so we tend to be able to fix things ourselves, come up with new ideas, but we're also very willing to help. So I noticed that when I went overseas, I wouldn't think twice about saying to somebody, "Do you need a hand with that? Can I help you?" or whatever. I'm not going to step in and take it over from you. I'm just saying you look like you could do with a hand, and we just pitch in and have some fun. Also, we don't take things too seriously most of the time. But yeah, that's about the only thing I can think of. I mean, the burner ethos is pretty much consistent from country to country, which is why we all come together, why we can go to large events like Burning Man with 80,000 people. There wouldn't be many other cultural activities where you can throw 80,000 people together and not have some serious incidents happening somewhere, and divisions and all the rest of it. And where we do have differences of opinion, we talk them through. Yeah. We can work together with differences.
In terms of the landscape, what's the concentration of burners? Are they mainly in Auckland, Wellington, and what's the situation there?
Well, Auckland is by a fair distance the largest city in New Zealand. So that is where most of our burners come from. It's about 60-40. So the Auckland sort of greater metropolitan area, shall we call it. There's more from the North Island than the South Island, simply because it's harder to get here, and the South Island is much more sparsely populated. Then we have many people from Wellington, of course. We're closer to Wellington, I think Andy said earlier it's about 5.5 hours from Auckland. It's about 2.5 or so from Wellington. But Wellington is a much smaller city. So, there's fewer people coming from there. And then obviously we have many people that live in, various rural situations as well. We've got a couple of theme camps that are specifically from the South Island and Christchurch based. So people come from anywhere. But by virtue of being the largest two cities, the majority of people are from either Auckland or Wellington.
But we are developing. We have got other burns happening around New Zealand.
Yeah.
And burn adjacent ones. So there's quite a population of burners in the northern part of the North Island, up in Whangarei, around Northland. We've also got a lot on the east coast, around Tauranga, and places like that. Wellington, even though it's smaller than Auckland, is very active. Has a very social group of burners who get together regularly. And Christchurch has got a very heavy concentration of burners too. They have various premises that they meet up and various events they run together. And then we've also got quite a few concentrations in smaller areas that are very active. So we have some like through Wanata and places like that in the South Island. When COVID hit and we cancelled our burn, we actually actively assisted other areas to start small regional burns, not official Burning Man regional burns, but New Zealand regional ones. So we have those popping up around the country as well. But yeah, so in a lot of rural areas, and I say the old hippie domains of New Zealand, so Coromandel, the northern part of the South Island, there's a heavy community of burners in there. Basically, you can tour New Zealand and go from burner to burner.
Yes, you can, and people do.
Yeah, I love the New Zealand tourism ads. It actually makes me want to go there straight away.
Yep.
It's
We've already sent you an application for 2025, so you can choose what you want to volunteer for.
Yeah. And it really is
cool.
that beautiful. And again, I think because we're so far away, the wanting to help, wanting to provide a soft landing wherever we can is very much a Kiwi ethos, and by definition, or by extension rather, a Kiwi burner ethos as well.
Okay, let's talk about the effigy and the temple for this year.
Okay.
Can you describe what it is or what it looks like? Bit of spoiler.
Well, I mean, if you're on site now, you would have seen it. So the effigy is called flora, fauna, human and fungi. There's one word that I'm missing. I'm very sorry. And it's sort of celebrating New Zealand wildlife and society and humans interacting with that. And then our overlords, the mushrooms, who largest organisms on the planet and undefinable in terms of whether they're actually plants or animals. And so
aliens.
Yeah. So it's a large structure. It was done largely with bamboo lashings. So the artist Nico has created a number of faces, both human faces and animal faces. So there's a mouse, there's a rooster, there's a bunny rabbit, and he's done those out of stripped bamboo and lashed them together. So they're definitely very clearly identifiable, almost like a totem. So we've got the humans at the top, and then the animals, and then the mushrooms, and sort of tree of life almost elements. So it's about 12 meters.
I run the tape measure. Normally they grow.
Oh, they definitely grow. Yeah, it always comes out bigger.
They apply at a certain height so they know that they can get it through, and then they just make it bigger without telling us.
Yeah. So it's a sizable structure. It'll make quite the fire. I'll let you talk about the temple.
Yeah. So the temple this year is a rather unique one. So we have, over the years, we've had a group of people who have been both our medical service and also our fire service. And they have operated since the Mangakino days. I think it's either 15 years or 16 years possibly that they've been involved with us. So every year they've come along and they've done their thing, but they've also become part of the community. And we've always heard whispers that Paul, who's the part of the team of Paul and Kirsty, Paul always had these ideas, and he finally got egged into putting a design forward. And it's basically paying homage to all the emergency services workers. So Paul and his wife Kirsty are heavily involved in the fire service and also St John's ambulance. And it's based on the St John's international symbol. So it's got the Southern Cross, it's got the snake, it's got the name of the snake and the staff and things like that. So basically it's in the shape of the staff, in the shape of the star, and its theme is basically the heart rhythms. So each of those arms has a different heart rhythm that explains what it is. how you get it, what impact it can have on you. It goes from birth to death. And and the interesting thing with it was the way he designed it. It's what we're calling our first IKEA flat pack temple. It's now set the bar very high for the first to be completed, the easiest to be completed, probably the lowest comparative budget to be completed. Basically, Paul and his team built it off-site in flat panels, stacked his warehouse, and then basically trucked it on site and bolted it together in a space of probably 3 to 4 days.
They are local, though, to be fair. That helps.
And the other good thing about it with that this year was we run a community barbecue the weekend before, where we bring the local people in. And so Paul actually brought it on site, had it built, so they could actually view what a temple was about. Nico had his under construction, so they saw one large structure being constructed and one almost constructed. So yeah, that's our temple in Effigy this year, but don't tell anybody yet.
Yeah.
They burn tomorrow.
Yeah.
One burns tomorrow, one the day after.
Yeah, I have to say that the temple is it may be flat pack, as it were. I personally find it, and obviously these things are hugely individual, right? I found the temple hugely evocative. So he's explained the different. So it's like there's various themes: fear, lust, love, life, death, and the different heart rhythms that come with that. And it's beautifully done.
That sounds
And
amazing.
there's a very, very special feature that's been added in the last few days, so we can't tell you about that until everybody else has experienced it. But needless to say, I'll hint at Led Zeppelin.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much, Andy and Julia, for coming together like this and having a chat about Kiwiburn. Appreciate you guys.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having it.
Anything else you want to promote, Kiwiburn?
No, we don't want to promote Kiwiburn. We don't need to.
Anything else you want to say?
Just a few Australians that keep saying they're going to come and visit us, but we're still waiting for you to come over here and turn up. So January 2026, we expect to see you here.
Yes, definitely. And for you guys as well, welcome to one of our burns as well. I think with this initiative of knowledge exchange, as well as the connection, I think it's very important for our community.
100%.
And I think the whole Bonzaar arrangement that we have between Australia and New Zealand, we're exchanging people all the time.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to everybody else's burn and sharing the knowledge. And I think we're showing the way for the rest of the world as far as how regional burns can work together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you guys being the first burn probably off the calendar as well in the new year. Yep. So yeah, it's great having that together.
Kiwis always lead the world. First to see the light, first to see the light every morning.
Yes. Well, have an awesome burn.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming by.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure.